Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text 22. This is one of those long prose verses, and I don't think I'll chant that, I don't think any of you are pundits who can chant those long prose verses. So you can repeat, we just do the word by word and then go to the manur, ati-viṣama-viṣaya-viṣa-jalāśayā, pratisandhita-manorathaḥ, surarṣi-varānumatenātmajam, akhila-dharā-maṇḍala-sthiti-guptaya, āsthāpya, svayam, ati-viṣama-viṣaya-viṣa-jalāśayāśāyā, upārarāma. Since we're a little late in starting the class, we'll go straight to the word meaning. Hare Krishna. So we're reading in this chapter the story of King Priyavrata. We have seen in the previous verses that Priyavrata, thou the grandson of Lord Brahmā and the son of Svāyambhuva Manu, he was determined to practice extreme austerities and lead the life of a renunciate. He had the great fortune of getting spiritual instructions from Narada Muni. His father, however, namely Svāyambhuva Manu, was very keen that he retire from his royal duties and hand over the kingdom to his son. And the son, however, had no inclination to doing the job of a king. And as you have seen, that it was Lord Brahmā who came there to convince the king that he should accept the advice of the father. And the king was so fortunate that out of the 12 spiritual authorities, Svāyambhuva Manu, Sambhu, Kamara, Kapilo, Manu, Tarado, Janaka, Bhisma, Bali, Vaya, Sakir, Vayam, 4 of them were present on that occasion. Narada Muni was present, Brahma was present, Svāyambhuva Manu was present, Lord Shiva was present. And Narada Muni also agreed that since this is Brahma's request, Priyavrata should accept the responsibility that his father wants to give him. And thou, King Priyavrata, took the responsibility of the king. His mind, he was completely absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was always meditating at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. As Maharaja says in the Bhagavatam, Sarve mana Krishna padara vindayo. May my mind always think of your lotus feet. So attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord, attachment to the instructions of the Lord, are the cause lead to detachment from material activities. Therefore we see that the emphasis is on some or the other getting attached to the instructions of the Lord and meditating on the instructions of the Lord. Last night we were lecturing on this theme in Shukrava temple, where Kṛṣṇa in the 8th chapter, through a series of verses, is just pointing out the importance of focusing the mind on him. So, on the one hand, the king had no desire to assume governmental duties. But on the other hand, in order to show respect to Lord Brahmā, he agreed to take charge of the governmental affairs. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita you see that Arjuna did not want to take part in the battle. When Arjuna saw the soldiers assembled on the other side, he said, how can I fight? How can I engage in this ghastly warfare? He said, I would prefer to live by begging rather than engage in this ghastly warfare. Thou, a member of the Kshatriya order, He was willing to become a beggar rather than fight against those that he respected all along. But then Arjuna did fight, didn't he? He fought because they were the order of Lord Sri Krishna, his superior. So similarly, King Priyavrata, he did not want to take care of the governmental duties. He was happy to live as a brahmachari and just keep meditating on the Lord. But when he saw that Lord Brahmā is also requesting him, then he agreed. So the point is that in spiritual life, we endeavor based on spiritual superior direction. We do not act whimsically. We do not act independently. We take the assistance of those who are spiritually more advanced. So if you think of the lotus of feet of the Lord and the instructions of the Lord, then staying in the material world, you can escape the contamination. In the 6th chapter, Krishna says, what is the definition of a perfect yogi? Yoginam api sarvesha madgate radharatmana. He says, of all yogis, he who always meditates upon me is united with me, and he is the highest of all. Krishna also tells Arjuna, Tasmat sarvesha kalesha mama nasmana yuddhacha. He says, engage in this battle, but with a mind dedicated to me. So in spiritual life, we show respect to our spiritual superiors. In material life today we see that nobody has any respect for anyone. Today's society, no one at one time, students respect teachers, children will respect parents, and so on. But today, there's virtually no respect left in society for anyone. So a devotee who is fixed in the process of devotional service in order to serve the Lord is willing to accept any responsibility. In the Bhagavatam it is said, Narayan para sarve na kodashana bibhiti swarga pravarga narkesha apitulyartha darshana. That in order to serve the Lord, a devotee is even willing to go to the hellish planets. So, Krishna consciousness means to learn to act for the pleasure of the Lord. And if we practice the process of devotional service, then staying where we are, we can remain detached. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives the example of a lotus leaf that is in water but not touched by the water. So the lotus leaf is in water, but it doesn't get touched. Similarly, a devotee acting in the material world, he may even be engaged in what may appear to be a material activity, but it is being done for the pleasure of the Lord, hence he remains detached. So even though initially Narada Muni was trying to encourage Priyavrata to remain a brahmachari and not take on this duty, but when he saw that Lord Brahmā was insisting, then he knew that this was the desire of the Lord, and hence he also agreed to Lord Brahmā's request. Rupa Goswami gave us the principle of yukta vairagya, the principle of genuine renunciation. Just like before Bhakti Siddhanta-ji, none of the acharyas would even sit in a car. He was the first great acharya who even sat in a car. So the point is that if you're fixed on the devotional path, then you learn with the help of superior direction how one can use the facility in service of the Lord. So, Maharaja Priyavrata, he was given the responsibility to rule over all the planets of the universe. Today, even on this one planet, there are so many countries. And the number of countries goes on increasing, not decreasing. Because nobody wants to work with nobody wants to live with somebody else. Prabhupada used to say that the flags of the United Nations are just increasing. But Maharaja Priyavrata, he was the emperor of the whole planet, of the whole universe. And he was been protecting all the planets of the universe. So the head of state or the king is considered a representative of the Lord. Therefore, he is also called Rajrishi. Prabhupada explains that the Bhagavad Gita was actually received and understood by the royal order. Evam parapara prapta viman rajasva vidu. The supreme science came down to the chain of disciplic succession. So through the chain of disciplic succession, who were all Rajrishis, this supreme science was received. So Svāyambhuva Manu, the father, was very happy when his son agreed to take over his duties. And Svāyambhuva Manu gave his son the responsibility for protecting and maintaining all the planets. The information on different planets, the information about the distance between planets can all be obtained from the Srimad Bhagavatam. The materialists are spending millions of dollars trying to discover, is there life on other planets, what is the distance between different planets, etc. But the Srimad Bhagavatam gives all this information. But unfortunately, they want to sell the Srimad Bhagavatam and they'll speculate and waste so much of Krishna's Lakshmi. Another significant point which Prabhupada points out in the purport is the mentality of Svāyambhuva Manu. Here we see that Svāyambhuva Manu is begging his son, please take over so I can go and deepen my meditation. Do you see that in mature life practically? Nobody wants to give up his position. They want to hold on to their position till death comes and kicks. They will only give up their position if they get diseased or attacked or get defeated. I'm sure you all have experience of this. Nobody wants to give up his position. This is the law of mature nature, unless one is spiritually advanced. So as Prabhupada is pointing out in the purport, Prabhupada said this is a very significant point, that Svāyambhuva Manu, he wanted to give up his responsibility, whereas in mature life you see that nobody wants to give up his responsibility, rather they want to hold on to their positions by manipulation or whatever, as long as they can. These days all over the world, people are happy to accept a form of government known as democracy. Prabhupada used to call it democracy. Because in a democratic system, the people get manipulated by those who have money. Those who have money can advertise more, they can bribe. In countries like India, what they do at the time of election, some of these political candidates, they go and give a lot of liquor to the villagers so that they would vote the way they want. So, therefore it was called demon crazy. The Vedic concept of government is spiritual monarchy. If the head of state is fully fixed in service to the Lord, then he'll be totally detached. Just like over here, we're reading about the wonderful character of King Priyavrata. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we read about so many other cases. We read about King Prithu in the 4th canto, how King Prithu, he was completely God-conscious. He instructed his citizens to glorify the Lord. The citizens were unhappy because of King Vena's activities. So when Prithu became the king, they all pleaded that the necessities of life be provided. But King Prithu said, I can't give anything, glorify the Supreme Lord. And then the necessities of life will be provided. Just like Krishna says in Gita, Annam bhavati bhutani pratina annam sambhava. Food grains come from rainfall. And rainfall comes by executing religious duties. So without executing religious duties, you can't expect cooperation from mature nature. Because mature nature works under the direction of the Lord. Recently, people all over the world celebrated New Year's. Your country also? But this year was a little special. They called it the millennium. So at the time of New Year, it is customary, as I was explaining last night, that we greet each other by saying Happy New Year. Doesn't matter what your mother tongue may be, the normal tradition is saying Happy New Year. But just by saying Happy New Year, is it a fact that your year ends up in happiness? No. And the materialists greeted the New Year with going to hotels, picnics, and this it was such a big commercial thing, this Millennium Eve. But devotees, they embrace the New Year and the Millennium by Harinam Kirtan. Because devotees know that even if it's only through the medium of the mercy of the Lord can anything be realized. So the point to recognize is that a devotee knows then even mature prosperity comes just by the mercy of the Lord. So Prithu Maharaj instructed his citizens to glorify the Lord. You read the wonderful character of King Yudhishthira. How King Yudhishthira was an idol king. So forgiving that even after the battle of Kurukshetra, he gave all the facilities to his uncle who tried to kill him. You read about King Rantideva, how he had fasted for a period of 48 days, and then he was about to break his fast when a hungry Brahmana walked into his palace, and the king parted with a little bit of foodstuff with which he was about to break his fast. Eventually the king had to part with everyone because after the Brahmana, other hungry and thirsty people came. But the king willingly parted, recognizing his duty as a king was to take care of all the citizens. There was another king called King Sibi. He was very, very compassionate, very merciful. So once the demigods decided to test his compassion, the limit of his compassion. So one took on the role of an eagle, one took on the bird of a pigeon. The pigeon came running to the king saying, "Protect me! The eagle is chasing me, he wants to eat me." So when the eagle came, demanding that the pigeon be given to him, the king said, "No, I can't give you this pigeon." And then an arrangement was made by which the king agreed to give the flesh from his body equal to the weight of the pigeon. And then, by the arrangement of the Lord, the weight of the pigeon went on increasing, and still the king did not give up his commitment. So in the end, the demigods were very pleased and they revealed their identity. Very recently, 500 years ago, we read about the wonderful character of King Prataparudra. How he used to go and sweep the road with a golden broom before the commencement of the Rath Yatra festival. So the point is, if the head of state is God conscious, then there will be happiness and prosperity in society. Because when the head of state is God conscious, he considers the entire population to be like his children. And that includes even the population of the animals. When Maharaj Parikshit saw Kali enter his kingdom, what did he do? He drove the personality out of his kingdom. So the head of state, when he's God conscious, society is also prosperous. King Amrish, he was a king, but fully attached to the lotus feet of the Lord. So over here it is being explained that Svāyambhuva Manu, the emperor, he was very keen that at a certain point in life he be relieved from his duties and the duties be passed on to his saintly son. So this brings us to the point of understanding the system of varnashram. Varnashram is the division of the society into social and spiritual order. Chatur varna maya system guna karma vivagasaha. That according to the mode of nature, the society is divided into 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. So at a certain point in life, one should be relieved from even his mature responsibilities so that he can absorb himself fully in service to the Lord. Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. These are the 4 ashramas. And then you have the varnas, Brahman, Kshatriyas, Vaishya and Sudra. But the goal of all these varnas and ashramas should be to please the Supreme Lord. Varnashrama chatavata purushena parapuman vishnu aradate. That is, the goal of all is to serve the Supreme Lord. So, Svāyambhuva Manu, at a certain age, was very happy to be relieved of his duties. We also see how King Rishabdev, who was an incarnation of the Lord, but at a certain age, he handed over the responsibility to his eldest son, King Bharat, and retired from his governmental duties. Maharaj Rishabdev gave us very valuable instructions. Nāyam deha bhajam naloke kastam kāmam ardavita bhujam ye tapo divyam putagayena sattvam shuddhayedas madhvamya sokyam anandam. Maharaj Rishabdev explains how this great human birth should not be used like the animals, but for purpose of self-realization. Do you see this instruction coming in society today from any head of state anywhere in the world? Well, sometimes people think in India everybody is very religious. But actually even over there, the heads of state or the people in political power never talk about spiritual subjects. So, the idle head of state considers himself a representative of the Lord and wants to guide the society on the path of God consciousness. So Prabhupada says very clearly in the purport, the history of Priyavrata and Svāyambhuva Manu describe how responsible monarchs perform their duties. So Svāyambhuva Manu was able to obtain relief from the poisonous ocean of mature desires. The whole purpose of human life is to get attached to the Lord and obtain relief from mature desires. Prabhupada says in the purport, the mature affairs have been compared to an ocean of poison. There is a very famous Vaishnava poet who has said, Hari Hari Bifle Janma Gunaino, Manusya Janma Paya, Radha Krishna Bhaja Janya Shuna Pisha Kaino. Having obtained this rare human birth and not having worshipped Radha Krishna, I've simply been drinking poison uselessly. So, what is the solution? What is the alternative to our escaping the influence of the illusory energy? Prabhupada talks about this in the purport. Loka prema dhana harinama samkirtan ratina dharma 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜. So the alternative is getting attached to the holy names of the Lord that are descending from the spiritual world. By the process of getting attached to the holy name, one can develop detachment from what is undesirable. As Prabhupada points out in the purport, the holy name is coming from where? From the spiritual world. So the holy name is descending from the spiritual world. And the Lord is so kind that He has invested all His transcendental energies in the holy name. But in spite of all this facility, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, displaying humility, says, I have no attraction for them. So, the Lord is so kind that He's invested all His transcendental energy in the holy name. But unfortunately, we're not so intelligent to be attracted to it. So we have to keep making an effort. By practicing the system of sadhana bhakti, we can hope to get to the point that we will develop attachment to the holy name. Just like Rupa Goswami explains how one goes from the initial state of Shraddha to eventually reaching the point of love of God, of Krishna Prema. But a key element in the realization of Krishna Prema is the execution of Bhajana Kriya. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that to think of me all the time. But he recognizes that that's not so easy. So he says, by following the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga, you will develop a desire to attain. So, we may have no attraction for the holy name, and it's honest to admit it, but if we follow the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga, they can hope to get to the state where you can develop attachment for the holy name. So we should make the effort, we should keep endeavoring attentively with the process of bhajana kriya and sadhana bhakti. In this story, as Prabhupada is pointing out in his purport, we see how Svāyambhuva Manu is perfecting the moment when he would depart. Yam yam vapi smaran bhava. Wherever your mind is at the moment of death, that's where the living entity goes. So wherever your mind is at the moment of death, and where will your mind be at the moment of death? Wherever it was during your lifetime. If in your lifetime you have practiced the art of Krishna consciousness, then there's a good chance you don't have to worry. But if in your lifetime you've not been practicing Krishna consciousness, then the mind can meditate certainly on the areas that you've been contemplating. King Bharat, what were they thinking about at the moment of death? And he had to take his brother with you. So wherever your mind is at the moment of death, that's where the living entity gets transported. So the perfection is to practice the process of bhajana kriya and thinking of the Lord. One who is rightly situated, he has no fear of death or any other calamity. Just like in that story of the sage, of the guru and his disciple. When the Guru was traveling with his disciple and they came across a prince. And the prince said, Guruji, give me your blessings. So the Swami saw what he was doing and he said, may you live forever. So he was a little surprised, what a blessing, because nobody can live forever. And a little later, he saw a very nice brahmachari. A nice brahmachari from Meghalaya traveling in India. You see a lot of Russian devotees in India in any case all the time. Like they say in Vrindavan, there are three main languages. First language is Hindi, second is English, and third is Russian. So many devotees from the CIS over there. So this sage Guru who was traveling, he met a nice brahmachari. And the brahmachari also said, some blessings for me. So the sage saw it was such a nice brahmachari. He said, he died immediately. And a little later, they were passing by, they came across a shop of a butcher. The butcher also came on and said, any blessings today for me? So the sage looked at this man's profession and said, don't live, don't die. He said, what a funny blessing, don't live, don't die. And then later, they came across a very nice pujari who was fixed in doing deity worship. And so the sage blessed him, live or die, makes no difference. So the disciple asked the logic of these different blessings. So the sage explained. He told the prince, may you live forever. Why? Because the prince is engaged in so many sinful activities, misusing his opulence. So as soon as he dies, he'll have to pay the price. So he said, live as long as you can, because when you die, you have to pay the price. He told the brahmachari, he died immediately. Why? He was fully fixed in his devotion at the moment. And if he dies, he goes back to life. Nothing to fear. In the future, the risk is always there. And he told the butcher, don't live, don't die. Because for him living, he's doing so many sinful activities. And so even for him living is painful, because he's doing so much sinful activities. And after that, he'll have to pay the price for all of it. And he told the pujari, live or die makes no difference. Because a devotee who is engaged in service of the Lord, he really has no fear. So we have to so mold our lives that in the moment of death, we can also think of Krishna. So here we see the wonderful example of Svāyambhuva Manu, who is preparing for his departure from the planet. So we have to so focus our life that whatever we're doing, we also be Krishna conscious at the same time. And by practicing the process of bhakti yoga, living the mature world, we can work in the spirit of detachment. Just like when Lord Chaitanya was traveling in southern India, he came across a Brahmin called Kurma. And the Kurma Brahmin was saying, no, I want to leave home and travel with you. He would be asking Lord Chaitanya, no, stay at home. Practice the following principles. These are described as the 5 limbs of devotional service. Chant Hare Krishna. Read what? Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Daily. Read it daily. Therefore in our temples we have this Bhagavatam and Gita every day. Now I know in reality that many of you don't come every day to the temple for Bhagavatam class. Maybe 1/5 of those sitting here come regularly and the rest can't come regularly. So that's understandable. Many of you may be living away from the temple, maybe doing jobs and so on. But you must read the Bhagavatam every day at home and the Bhagavad Gita. This is one of Lord Chaitanya's instruction how to remain in the spirit of detachment. If you can't do that, then you live in the temple, then you will be forced to it. Otherwise, read the Bhagavatam and the Gita on a regular basis. This is how Lord Chaitanya said, if you chant and read the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, you'll never be separated from me. Because reading gives us the strength to face the illusory energy. Therefore, Prabhupada emphasized reading of his books. Not only did he emphasize the distribution of the books, but also the reading of these books and the studying of these books. Because these books contain nothing but knowledge, real knowledge. Once, when the Pandavas were in the forest, a sage came and said that his sticks and all was stolen by the deer, and he pleaded to Yudhishthira for help. So Yudhishthira was very kind. So he said, okay, I'll help you, Brahman. So all the Pandavas were looking for those sticks. While searching, they felt very thirsty. So Nakula, the youngest brother, was sent by Yudhishthira to bring some water from a lake nearby. So he was so thirsty. It was hot, wasn't cold like Moscow. So he went to the lake to drink water and bring some water for his brothers. So as he was about to drink water, a voice came and said, "Stop! Don't drink this water till you reply to my questions." But Nakula ignored the advice. He was so thirsty. So as soon as he touched the water, he died. So the Yudhishthira and his brothers were waiting for some water, but no water came and Nakula didn't come. Then Yudhishthira sent Sahadeva, "Go and see where your brother is." So Sahadeva went to the same lake, and there he saw his brother was lying dead. But he was also so thirsty that he wanted to drink water. So as he was about to drink water, the voice again said, "Stop! Don't drink water till you reply to my questions, otherwise you'll also die." And Sahadeva also was so thirsty that he ignored the question, the voice, and drank water. And as soon as he touched the water, he also died. And then two brothers then come back. Yudhishthira got bothered. He said, Bhimsen, same thing happened. He said, Arjuna, same thing. So Yudhishthira was really in anxiety. What's happening? None of my four brothers have come. So Yudhishthira finally went over there. And when he went to that lake, he saw that all his four brothers were lying dead there. And Yudhishthira couldn't understand how they've died. These were all such great warriors and they were lying dead over there. He was shocked. Arjuna and Bhimsen could kill hundreds of people in one alone. But Yudhishthira was also very thirsty. So he also wanted to drink water first. So as he was about to drink the water, the voice again spoke. The voice said, "Stop! Don't drink water before you answer my questions, otherwise you will also meet the same fate of your brothers." So Yudhishthira was intelligent. He said, "Okay, present your questions." So the voice presented many questions. One of the questions was, what is faster than the wind? What's faster than the wind? And he said, mind. So the voice said, very good, you're intelligent. Then the voice said, what is the most important thing a man can possess? Dollar, bank account, and so on. The voice said, Yudhishthira said, knowledge. So knowledge is the most important thing that you can possess. And then the voice said, what knowledge? And he said, transcendental knowledge. So transcendental knowledge is the most important thing a man can possess. And where do you get this transcendental knowledge? In the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So this is the most important asset that one can possess, the knowledge of the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Then the voice said, what is the greatest wonder that you can think of? And Yudhishthira said, he thought very deeply for the answer. And then he said, the greatest wonder is that at every moment, countless people are going in the jaws of death, but still the living entity thinks, I will not die. Priyavrata? Others people would prepare for that, isn't it? But they don't prepare for that. So the voice was very pleased by the answers given by Yudhishthira. So he said, okay, you have satisfied me. Now I'll give you one benediction. One of your four brothers can be brought back to life. Tell me, which one do you want? Four of his brothers were lying dead. Arjuna, Bhimsen, Sahadeva, Nakula. So he said, one of them I'll bring back to life. Tell me which one you want. So Yudhishthira said, Nakula. So the voice said, that's crazy. Why are you asking for Nakula to be brought back? Nakula is not a warrior. What's he going to do for you? Ask for Arjuna, Bhimsen. They can kill hundreds of people at one time. But then Yudhishthira said, my father had two wives. So Nakula and Sahadeva are from Madhuri. So the voice was very pleased by the selfless answer given by Yudhishthira. And then he brought back all the four brothers to life. So we gave it the story to show that the most important asset that you can accumulate or have is knowledge. And that comes from studying these books. So we should regularly, even if you can't come to the temple, you should study these books. Find time. So, and then Lord Chaitanya said, associate with devotees and live in a sacred place and make the place of residence like a sacred place. So Lord Chaitanya said, if you do these 5 things, you will never be separated from me and I'll never be separated. So we should all try to take advantage of these 5 limbs of devotional service. So to summarize the verse, we see that Svāyambhuva Manu is very pleased that with the assistance of Lord Brahmā, his desires have been fulfilled. And what was his desire? That his son take over his governmental duty. So Priyavrata has agreed to take on the responsibility of a king and relieve his father. But Priyavrata was fully absorbed in meditating on the Lord. So he wrote to the king without getting attached. So following the footsteps of King Priyavrata, we should all endeavor to focus our minds correctly. And then now working in the material world will be detached like a lotus leaf in water, but not touched by the water. You may say this is impossible. You may say this is difficult. But it's possible. By practice and determination. So try. Krishna will help you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare